So I've just seen a report there from Michael Coppinger of Fox Sports Boxing that Andy Ruiz has agreed terms to step in and face Anthony Joshua on June the 1st in MSG. So he will officially replace Jarrell Miller. Now, this hasn't been confirmed, but it's looking likely. I've seen various websites reporting this, and as I said, I've seen Michael Coppinger report this on Twitter that Andy Ruiz has now agreed terms to face Anthony Joshua. Now, I didn't really touch on this much during the week, but Andy Ruiz, he's coming off a win over Alexander Dmytrenko. I think it was last week, and I didn't see the fight, but I did hear about it, and I heard that Ruiz, he wasn't really in there with much. He barely took any punches, so he should be in relatively good shape. Retrospectively, he's never in good shape, but in terms of ring shape and in terms of not taking any damage, he should be good to go June the 1st. He may take a couple of days rest and then back into the gym, and he should be good to go on June the 1st. It is a quick turnaround, but you'd think that the sharpness would still be there. The only thing you'd worry about is there a slight chance of overtraining there, but if you give a couple of days, if you give him sufficient enough rest and don't push him too far, he should be okay. Obviously Anthony Joshua, when we got news that Jarrell Miller had failed three drugs tests, yeah, and would no longer be the opponent for Anthony Joshua, it was a bit, kind of, for me anyway, it was a little bit annoying because I was looking forward to that fight. Even though I thought Anthony Joshua would win the fight, it was a bit annoying. But as soon as I heard the names that were being kind of thrown out there as replacements, the Luis Ortizes, the Kubrat Prulevs, the Michael Hunters, the one name that did spring to mind that I really wanted to see Anthony Joshua in there with if the Jarrell Miller fight was definitely off was Luis Ortiz. Now, subsequently, Luis Ortiz has been made offers by Eddie Hearn, which he stated, or his team stated rather, that they were low ball offers. Subsequently emerged that these were career high paydays he was being offered, something like in the region of $5 million. Considering Luis Ortiz only got $500K when he fought Deontay Wilder, to be saying that low ball $5 million offer is a low ball offer is absolutely absurd, in my opinion. And there are these people out there who are saying that Eddie Hearn does not want Anthony Joshua to fight Luis Ortiz, that this, that, and the other. At the end of the day, these people, a lot of these Deontay Wilder fans, and I'm not necessarily criticising Deontay Wilder himself, but a lot of his fans just come out with some of the dumbest sayings you'll ever hear. They make it out like, Eddie Hearn is this, that, and the other. Look, Eddie Hearn's not the nicest guy in the world. Eddie Hearn was willing to get Luis Ortiz in there. Probably, some would argue, maybe even a tougher opponent than Jarrell Miller. And his team, Luis Ortiz's team, come out and basically say, okay, yeah, fair enough. We made a mistake. Can we have the match again? Because they used the low ball offer as an excuse to try and get more money, despite the fact they were getting a career high payday. And some of these Deontay Wilder fans still say that Eddie Hearn doesn't want Anthony Joshua to fight Luis Ortiz, considering Anthony Joshua has fought way better guys than Luis Ortiz, like a Klitschko and to an extent Povetkin, even Joseph Parker. And yet they don't want, and yet the Wilder fanboys are saying, oh, Eddie Hearn doesn't want Ortiz or doesn't want Joshua to fight Ortiz. It's BS. Anyway, Andy Ruiz would not be my number one pick for Anthony Joshua's next opponent. I would have liked to seen it be Luis Ortiz. Do I think Anthony Joshua would have beaten Luis Ortiz? Yes, I do. But I think it would have been an interesting fight because Ortiz, although he's getting on in years, he's very skilled. He's a good boxer. He's very good technically. He can punch. And I think that it would have been interesting to see how Anthony Joshua deals with someone like that. Excuse me. As opposed to, say, a Jarrell Miller, who we kind of knew what we would get with him, where it'd be just coming forward, relentless pressure, throwing a lot of punches, high work rate. Now, Andy Ruiz, as a fighter, I've never really been massively impressed with him. He went the distance there at the end of 2016 with Joseph Parker in a very close fight. A lot of people felt that Andy Ruiz won that fight. It was very close. I don't know, it was a majority decision. I thought it was a split, but it was a majority decision. Very close fight. Andy Ruiz is 6'2". He is not exactly the greatest heavyweight in terms of his body shape. I would say he is easily about 30, 40 pounds overweight, maybe even more. You could even probably argue if Andy Ruiz stripped off all the fat and was lean, he'd probably be a cruiserweight, maybe. But For his flaws, he has some good strengths. He can punch a bit, he's got very quick hands, and he does appear to have a decent chin. I'm not saying he's a Gennady Golovkin, but I've never seen him be bothered by any shots coming back at him. So Andy Ruiz, he's decent. He's a different puzzle to Jarrell Miller. But I do expect Anthony Joshua to deal with Andy Ruiz. But I wouldn't be at all shocked if Andy Ruiz could pose a few little issues there to Anthony Joshua. Maybe. Realistically, I would go with Anthony Joshua winning the fight. Probably stopping Andy Ruiz. But I think Andy Ruiz will be game. I'm not saying he'd be competitive, but I think he'd be a game opponent, and I do think he would come to win. The question is, how far would he get, or what kind of successes would he have with Anthony Joshua? Would he have successes in terms of, making it a close fight? I don't think so. Would he win a couple of rounds in there? I would expect maybe he would. Would he have any chance of beating Anthony Joshua? You never know in the heavyweight division, but I wouldn't be putting money on it. As I did state in one of my other videos, that the three champions, or the three supposed champions heavyweight division, if you count the lineal title, are fighting in relatively close spaces of time. And I thought that the Miller-Joshua fight was the most competitive out of the three. And I feel that if this fight does happen, the Ruiz-Joshua fight will still be the most competitive out of the three. So Anthony Joshua definitely taking on the more credible opposition than, I think Deontay Wilder and Dominic Breazeale. I don't think that's necessarily, going to be much of a fight. I think Wilder will win that. Fury Schwartz, I think Fury will win that fight pretty easily. But Ruiz, even though I think AJ will win this fight, I think he'll be game. I think he'll come to fight, and we'll see what he can do. He definitely appears to have some heart there. So we'll see what Andy Ruiz can do. If this fight takes place, as I said, expect Anthony Joshua to win. And, I would expect probably to see Deontay Wilder's fanboy say, we'll see, he beat Andy Ruiz, but he ducked Luis Ortiz. So, you know what those people are like. Anyway, leave your thoughts down below. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. And, as always, I will talk to you after.